Welcome to the Leadership Spark podcast, where we equip you to be the great leader your people deserve. This is Corey, and today we're going to continue talking about leadership conversations. And we've covered a lot of ground the last few days, and I would encourage you to go back and listen to the previous podcast about this to get the foundation, because we're shifting now into specific types of conversations you should be having as a leader. And we're going to start by having the feedback conversation. Now, when you hear me say feedback conversation, you may feel a certain way about that. You may feel anxious. You may feel scared. You may feel some friction. You may feel like, I don't want to have that kind of conversation. And so I want to hopefully reframe the feedback conversation with you, and then give you some frameworks that you can use as you think about having that conversation, because it's very important. That is the type of conversation. A feedback conversation is a conversation as a leader that we should be having consistently. And so we need to build the skills. We need to get comfortable doing it. And we need to reframe it to understand that feedback isn't always constructive. In fact, you should be depositing into the relationship bank account with positive feedback at a ratio much higher than the withdrawals for constructive feedback. But we often think of feedback just as constructive. But feedback is a conversation that we should be engaged in consistently. Both directions. I should be asking for feedback, and I should be giving feedback, because that's the way that we get better. That's the way we elevate performance on our team. And we want to create a team where feedback is the norm. And so a couple of ways to think about it, the way that we think about it here at WildSpark. And I'm just going to do a flyby here. One is the celebrate, champion, and challenge model. Is that you're thinking about, how can I celebrate the person? How can I champion the work that they're doing? And how can I challenge them to elevate to the next level? And so you could think about that. People on your team, are you celebrating them? Are you championing them? Are you challenging them? All three of those need to be happening if you want to be effective at the feedback conversation. And the second thing is, think about feedback as being FAST. FAST as an acronym. FAST. And so you want the feedback to be F, frequent. The thing that I see, and mistakes that I see made, is that people wait to give feedback. And here's the thing about a hard conversation. A hard conversation becomes a lot harder the longer you wait to have that hard conversation. And so feedback should be frequent. If you are giving frequent feedback, then it's not as scary, and you're keeping small things small before they become big things that make giving feedback a lot harder. And having that weekly one-on-one is a place where you can give and receive frequent feedback. So don't wait to give the feedback. It's not going to get any easier if you wait to give the feedback. And don't believe the lie that it will. So the feedback needs to be frequent, F, and fast. The A is accentuate the positive. I mentioned this earlier. The ratio of positive to constructive feedback should be 5, 6, 7 to 1. And so we want to accentuate the positive. Find specific ways people are doing the things that you want replicated, and give them feedback about that so that they continue to do that. And make sure that ratio of deposits and withdrawals is in the right ratio when it comes to accentuating the positive. The S is be very specific. General feedback doesn't really help. Be very specific about what you are observing or experiencing with people, so that they can understand behaviors they may need to change, or the way they think that needs to change very specifically. That will help them get to the level that you want to get them to. And timely, I mentioned this earlier, that the T in fast is timely, meaning that you're doing it from a time proximity perspective close to the event. If you are talking to someone trying to give feedback on something they did 3 or 6 months ago, it's very difficult for them to remember. But if you give it to them the day or 2 days afterwards, it's fresh, and you will get more, you'll cover more ground, and you'll gain more progress when it comes to giving feedback. And so celebrate, champion, challenge, make your feedback fast. If you are using those two models within your feedback conversations, it will help you move the ball down the field and help you ultimately get the outcome that you want to get from having that conversation in the first place. But giving feedback, a very critical conversation that as a leader, I should be doing consistently. So the go and do is grab one of those frameworks and go practice that this week as you give feedback to those on your team.